Good evening, cult members, and welcome to the Pop Culture Cult. I'm Sean.
I'm Janice.
And this is going to be our non-spoiler review of Captain Marvel. We just got home. And this is the in-between Infinity War and Endgame movie. We did get Ant-Man and the Wasp, but that was just kind of we need a cleanser from Infinity War movie.
Right, an uplifting palate cleanser, yes.
And then this was an origin movie for the person that Fury calls to because everything has gone bad.
Right.
And so...
Yep. The symbol on the pager.
Right.
On the high-tech pager.
Right.
And they explain that. Yay.
They do a really good job of explaining the pager. I want to talk about the origin story part first, and then we can talk about its connective tissue and everything else. But
sure.
I really like the movie. But it's a very kind of paint-by-numbers origin story.
Yeah.
Which is fine. Which is totally fine. You kind of have to do that with a character like this. You can't go too deep into the mythos of the character in a single movie.
Right, and connecting in everybody else. I mean, they did a good job. There's, like the pager, there are non-spoilers, so there are several things that get cleared up for you.
Yes, that is and not necessarily for Carol, for Carol Danvers either. No. I liked that they put it in the 90s. It makes sense for the story, the overall story arc, and this is really the first time they've kind of gone back for an entire movie. They've done flashbacks in like Guardians and Captain America was that was one of the early ones. So it's been a while since they've gone back in the timeline and explained it. And with that, you could bring Coulson in, you can bring Fury in, you can show the early stages of S.H.I.E.L.D., where before they really start getting into the Avenger Initiative and stuff like that.
Well, it's kind of the middle stages of...
Oh, that's true, because you get, the early stages.
The early stages is after World War II.
Right.
Yeah.
Brie Larson is pretty amazing as Carol Danvers.
Yeah. I mean, it was... I don't know what I was expecting, but yeah, I thought she was awesome. She's badass. She's funny. She spends the entire movie with like this smirk on her face. Like
right. Which is funny
could kill
because
all of you right now.
Right. There's one fight scene that she does without her powers, and she takes out like 20 opponents.
Yeah.
And it was just like with no powers at all. It was just like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I like that they brought Sam Jackson back and did the de-aging, and it adds a good connective tissue, but it also adds a level of realism to earthly realism to the story, because a lot of the story is on Earth, but it like there's times when even Fury is like, what?
Yeah.
Like, I didn't believe in this until I saw this, and now I can't unsee it.
Yeah. Well, again, it's the middle. It's the middle of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? So, World War II with Stark and the Tesseract and stuff, they kind of thought all this weird stuff was man-made, right? So,
right.
Steve Rogers and Hugo Weaving's character,
Skull.
Red Skull, they all were kind of made.
Right.
They weren't aware yet that there was actually
any outside forces,
aliens.
right?
Yeah, until this movie, and now they know.
And
because the Kree and the Skrull are in it. I mean, you see that in the
trailer, so it's not really a spoiler. And then you kind of get in, like, when you go back, you start thinking about things. Thor brings his, all of his drama with Loki to Earth in the first one, and then then in Avengers, Fury blames Thor for weaponizing the Tesseract, and so it makes so you have that connective tissue there. You have the connective tissue within Avengers, and now you have it with Captain Marvel. So it was a nice like add-on. Like I didn't expect that to mean that much to me until we started talking about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it's like I pointed out, this isn't really a spoiler, Carol Danvers, and I guess all of the Krees, spacesuits, and you kind of see them in the commercials, but in the trailers, but not. I didn't realize they're very much like the one that Star-Lord uses in Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean,
where you hit the button and the whole visor comes down and stuff like that.
They're very much the same as that, which kind of connected that all together. And then Ronan the Accuser is in it because the Kree are in it. So and everybody knew that.
Yeah, it's funny when it needs to be funny. It's got some heart when it needs to have heart. It is a fish out of water story, but it's also a buddy cop story with some sci-fi space stuff going on at the time. For the overall story arc, they did a really good job. Maybe wedging in some stuff at the end, but there was some stuff where it was like, this explains this, and this explains this, and this explains this, and which is totally fine. Like I the way they did it was totally good. I'm sure some people will probably complain about it, but I felt that it was really well done, explaining some overall series info without taking away from the individual movie. Is that a good way of putting it without spoiling anything?
Yeah. Not packing too much of either thing in.
Right.
I mean, it kind of felt like a good. I really actually wasn't expecting that much crossover
connectiveness.
That it had. So I was happy with that. There was a couple of things where you're like, and now this is going to happen, and it did. I think that's comic book movies in general. There's a lot of and now
there's some sci-fi tropes that happen, and that, that kind of thing. So
now the girl's gonna fall in love with the guy, or not necessarily this happened in this movie, but just kind of those general types of things that you're like, this is what's gonna happen next. A couple of those happened, but overall I thought it was fine.
Yeah. Jude Law is really good. Ben Mendelsohn is really good. I really like them. Annette fucking Bening is in this movie. Marvel pulling out, like, just randomly grabbing somebody that you never
amazing.
Yeah. It was just like they do this. They bring these uber A-list older actors and come in to play these
Michael Douglas and I mean Sam Jackson,
but he hasn't. I wouldn't call him he is probably an A-list guy now, but when he started, he wasn't an A-list guy.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Robert Redford, Robert Redford, and to be the bad guy in was that Civil War?
Civil War, yeah.
No, it wasn't Civil War. It was Winter Soldier.
Winter Soldier.
So the only other thing that I want to talk about is the empowerment, the female empowerment that everyone thought that this movie was going to be. Now, I'm breaking news here. I'm a white middle-aged man, and so my opinion here may not be what your opinion is of what you saw. For me, I saw it as a girl getting up over and over and over again to not back down. Some people may see it as girls getting up and up and up, standing up and for themselves over and over and over again.
I think there was a little bit of both, because there's some flashback scenes, and
some of them were in the trailer. So
some of them were in the trailer. So there's some flashback scenes to when she was younger, when she was Carol Danvers,
right?
That only work because she's a girl.
Yeah.
Because she tried to do things that girls weren't supposed to do, or and failed, which everybody fails. That's how you learn. But it was a bigger deal because she was a girl.
Right.
So I get that, but as far as the basis of the movie itself, I mean, Carol Danvers, obviously a girl.
Rambeau.
Monica Rambeau is a girl, and the only other character they changed was, you said Marvell.
Marvell is a guy, a male scientist in the comic, and that Benning is kind of essentially playing that character.
Right.
So,
but if you don't think that comic books are all about empowerment for Black people, for women, then you haven't read a comic book.
Right.
Because Stan Lee was all over that stuff, like in the 70s, and and making that stuff happen.
They were talking about that stuff in the comic long before it was even being addressed in the public eye, and so comics has always been at kind of the forefront of all of that stuff, and now that version of what's going on is now happening in the movies.
Right.
And so
I think that you just
Black Panther directly made you think about the slavery movement and how blacks have been treated and stuff like that throughout history. So they put it in front of your face and said, here, this is the big thing about this story.
Yeah.
In Captain Marvel, they said, here's the story of a girl doing stuff that she's not supposed to do. Oh, by the way, she's also a badass on her own before she even gets powers.
Right, but that came from failing,
right?
Being told she couldn't do it and
Right.
doing it anyway, and
Right.
failing and getting up and doing it again, and
I just with a lot of the issues that came up with Rotten Tomatoes and people talking about it online, the trolls out there complaining about, we can't have a girl lead, blah 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 blah. It's like, no, this story doesn't work if it's a guy. It's just another superhero random fill-in blank here.
It's Captain America or Iron Man or
But this story has much more impact to it because it's Brie Larson playing a female superhero lead, and
right.
I think that actually adds to the this and not takes away from it.
Right. It's okay, boys. We're allowed to have a movie once in a while too.
Yeah, and this talk has been going on online. Some people are saying Wonder Woman was more impactful for that movement, and I'm not going to argue that point. But I think overall, Captain Marvel from beginning to end is probably a better overall movie than Wonder Woman.
It didn't have the
third act woes.
Failed third act. Yeah.
Yes,
I would say it's a better movie. I would say that I agree that Wonder Woman is more impactful from the woman power, whatever, just because it came out first.
It came out first, and you had a female director, and so there's a lot more to that movie. And I'm not kidding. Our theater was full. Adobe Theater was full, and I saw probably 20 women and girls walking around with Captain Marvel shirts on. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
Yep.
So, and we were one of 4 theaters at our movie theater that all watched the 7:00 showing. So leaving was a shit show. So let's give it a score. You want me to go first?
Yeah, go first.
I have it at a 4. And the reason I have it at a 4 is D.H. Coulson and Fury. I actually think that Brie Larson showed her acting chops multiple times. Pretty lights, and the best cat ever in a movie.
Goose is amazing.
Yes, I'm getting a goose pop. It's gonna happen.
We'll talk later. I have questions.
Okay.
I'm gonna give it a 4.25.
Okay.
Just because I was gonna give it a 4 and you gave it a 4.
Here we are matching again.
Yeah, so I'll give it a 4.25 because I liked it enough to give it a 4.25.
There's 2 things I want to talk about really quick before we finish. There are really quick, easy. There's 2 post-credit scenes. One is I'm not going to say what they are. I really want to say what they are because there's a whole conversation about one of them.
No.
But there's 2. There's one mid-credit, one post-credit.
Yep.
They're both worth staying.
Yep.
The other thing is they do something at the beginning of the movie. I will not spoil it because I want you to have the experience in the theater. It is the first time I have applauded at the beginning of a movie.
Yep.
And
the whole theater
applauded
applauded
at the beginning of the movie.
Yep. Yep.
So that's our thoughts on Captain Marvel. Mostly spoiler free. Let us know what you guys think. Are you excited about the movie? Have you seen it already? What is your rating? Give us a 1 to 5 score. Leave it in the comments and let us know. Subscribe to this channel. Help us out on Patreon. Like the video and get a hold of us on our social media network. All of that is down here. And until next time, good night, cult members.